Okay, and then up next we have Katia, who is talking about patient registry, which we've heard so much about.
Hello. I'm so happy to see old faces and new faces. These conferences are literally the highlight of my year. I wanted to mention that I think we all share something in common where we're searching for answers, and we finally get a diagnosis, and it hits us hard, right? It hits us hard because, great, sure, we have an answer, but now it's so concrete that there's a problem, and we've established there's a problem, and we don't really have answers for that problem. So I feel like that's something I share with all of you, and sometimes I say hi and I talk to people as if I've known them forever because I feel like we're all one big family and we're all one tribe here for the same purpose. The reason I got involved with the patient registry is because when my son was diagnosed, he's chit-chatting in the corner, he's currently 9 years old. When he was diagnosed, he was about 18 months. And there was only one paper from Dr. Schaff, the first 5 patients. I freaked out. And I feel like despite, we hear a lot of research, I know there's a lot of papers out now, but I wanted to know that my child was included, that my child specifically and his symptoms were included. And I feel that that's why the patient registry is so important, because you as a parent have a voice. You have a voice to be included in research, right? A lot of times research is based on what the physician sees in their office, but they don't see a lot of the nuances that you can't quite explain, or it's part of your everyday life, or it isn't something big like CVI or seizures. For example, my kid can't sit still, right? Like no matter what, he's like always rocking back and forth, and I think all of our kids have that same thing. I feel like documenting things like these on the patient registry and doing your surveys every single year, this is sort of a biomarker, right? So if we find some treatment and did it cure seizures? We're not sure. That may take a long time to figure out. Did it help with CVI? That may take a long time to figure out. But if we all of a sudden notice that our kid is kind of standing still or is able to express themselves differently, us documenting that is what can make a difference, right? We as parents can really help the physicians find out whether treatments are working just by our own observations. So my presentation is very short, but I just wanted to mention that. I think we all know what the patient registry is. The majority of our parents here have registered with the registry, so give yourself a hand. Very simple. We create an account. We update our genetic report. All of us have not updated our genetic reports, but I will hound you at some point in these couple of days. You complete your surveys. The surveys are important. They will come around every year. I know they're tedious, but it's really important that we do it once a year. We chose as a board, instead of doing it on your 1-year anniversary, we chose the month of June to be Patient Registry Month so that we can do a big campaign and remind everyone, hey, this is our month to do our surveys, and then we can kind of keep track and remind you guys when it's time to do surveys. I don't know where we are on the, oh, thank you. I lost you. So this patient registry recap.
What do we need to do? We're at this one. That's where we are.
Okay. We go to the next slide. Can I see what they're seeing on here? Thanks. It's okay. I can figure it out. We can move. Thank you. So the data, I know some people are hesitant about putting all this personal information into the patient registry, but Matrix has a lot of safety checks in place so that your data, number one, is your own. You're not giving this data away to anyone else. And the only people allowed to see your information is currently at the moment 2 of us who are actually on the patient registry committee. And the reason for that is because I'll get questions that you can't log in or you're having trouble with a survey, and I'm here to help you with that, and that way I can be able to see, how I can help you or get you through that process. The de-identified data, that is shared with the NR2F1 Foundation, our doctors and researchers, and Combined Brain. But that doesn't have any identifying information to it. They just get a set group of data, like all the information you guys input. Next slide. As mentioned earlier, the registry is available in English, Spanish, French, German, Portuguese, Italian, Korean, and Hebrew. We are working on other languages. We usually try to file for a grant to get those translated amongst the Combined Brain community. But if there's a specific language out there that's not included, please reach out to us. Please let us know so that we know what languages to push for in our community. Next slide. So when we first started the patient registry in April of 2022, we had 14 patients registered. A year ago, or in September, almost a year ago, we had 97 patients registered, and now we have 126 patients registered. I think that's incredible considering we have, less than 300. So these numbers make me happy. And the next slide shows basically how we are spread out. Well, at least those that are registered in the patient registry. And little bits of information like this also help us decide on languages. It helps us decide on what resources we may need to provide, since some countries don't have access to Facebook or certain social media. So I'd like to get at least the 300 people registered so we know what countries they are from. So if you guys I know everyone's got their own little set of Facebook friends that are also BBSOAS parents, please encourage them to sign up for the patient registry. It's really, really, really important for us. Next slide. So this is where I yell at you all. We have 126 patients registered. We only have 66 genetic reports. The genetic reports are really important. Sarah is going into Matrix and actually identifying what type of mutation or deletion you have within Matrix so that we can also separate our data based on the type of mutation you have. The very first survey that you get, and I'm explaining this because I think this is really important for everyone to understand, is the Health and Development Survey. So obviously every single person has filled out the Health and Development Survey. That's the very first one. After that, based on those answers, you'll get specific surveys or surveys that are specific to your child. So I'm going to guess that out of the 126 patients, we have more than 60 that have vision or eye issues or seizures or brain or nervous system issues. So a lot of, not necessarily you, but a lot of people have not completed the full set of surveys, not even the first one. So what happens is you log in, you do the first one, you won't immediately get the next set of surveys. When you log out and you log in for the second time, that's when you'll see your to-do lists of surveys. So if you have only logged in there one time, you may think that you've had all your surveys done, and you may have gotten a sticker because we were super, super, super generous and nice to you if you did one of them. But we'd love for you guys to go back in there and just make sure that all of your surveys are complete. If you're having difficulties logging in because you don't remember your password, reach out to me. I can reset it for you and get you going. You can even stop me in the pool. I have my iPad. I will help you do it. right here at the hotel. Sarah showed a slide similar, next slide. Sarah showed a slide similar to this, which breaks down what these 126 patients have in common. And I think we can all see, even just by our group of kiddos here, we have seizures or brain, spinal cord, neurodevelopmental issues, eye or vision problems, and muscle, the low tone, even for our kids that are walking, you know, they all kind of have the same little walk, which is kind of sweet to see. They all have something in common. So all these slides will be available for you guys at the end of this conference. Next slide. So out of the 60 patients, it says 126, but I think this is the actual vision survey. Most patients, as you can see, have visual problems. Most patients have cognitive impairment or developmental delay. Seizures, which really surprised me. I thought most of our kids had seizures, but so far from the 60 that filled out the brain survey, only half of our kids have seizures, which really surprised me. And again, a lot of them have hypotonia. I feel like we always focus on seizures as a big one, and it's surprising to see this data. It's obviously not conclusive because we don't have all 300 patients, but these are the reasons why it's important to fill out your surveys. Next slide. I mentioned June is Patient Registry Month. So we will be pushing you guys, if you've already done your surveys, to complete your surveys again the following year. Next slide. This is not the end, but I have a couple more things to mention. The patient registry also serves as a personal file for yourself. There is a symptom checker. So for example, for me, I monitor certain symptoms with my child. You can make it whatever it is for you. I monitor headaches, seizures, when he's sick, because we were debated on whether he has sleep apnea or doesn't have sleep apnea. Sometimes he snores, but then other times he goes months without snoring. So I monitor when he's sick, when he snores, when he's mouthing his shirt, when he's sticking his fingers in his mouth. And Matrix will actually print out and show you any correlations between any of these things that you are tracking. So if you are not sure if, you started a new medication, is it working or not working? It's hard to remember whether they had 5 seizures last month or they had 4 seizures last month. But if you're just charting, just documenting every time you have a seizure and when you're giving medications, it also has your list of medications, when you start, when you end, when you give those medications. It will actually print out a chart for you that can correlate if one thing is related to the other. Things that we may not tie together, it may help you see if one thing is causing something else. The other thing that I do under activities is I monitor new fine motor, because it's hard to remember, how old was he when he, learned to eat with a spoon? I'm like, I don't remember, he's 9, he still has a hard time eating with a spoon. But so anything that's new that just stands out and I say, oh, well, he's never done that before, I just monitor. I enter it as a new, for me, I write new fine motor, I enter it and I write a little note oh, he did this. I also put down new speech and new unusual behavior, like the shirt, that was new. And I was like, oh, that's weird. So I just added that as something new, just so that in the future I can remember, go back and see how this affected us. Also, I also want to mention why these things are important. When my son was first diagnosed, there was only about, I think 20 patients, and we went to go see Dr. Schaff in Houston, and I mentioned to him that, hey, Nicholas doesn't produce any tears. And at the time, he's like, well, we haven't heard of that with anyone. And I'm like, this just doesn't make sense, And I asked, once we had our own private Facebook group, I asked in the group, and it was like 10 or 15 people, hey, I don't think my kid produces tears. Hey, I don't think my kid, and now that's actually one of the symptoms. So if there's something that you feel your child, that maybe it's not part of BBSOAS or you, it's just unusual, put it in your survey. There's always an other section. If you see something new, if you see something different, put it in the survey or ask on our Facebook group. You know, this is how we learn other things that we may have in common. That's the end for me.
Thank you. And I think just to make everyone understand how easy it is, Katia and I always joke that Katia doesn't have a desk-based job. And yet she manages to enter all of this and make it sort of pretty simple from a phone. So once you're in, it really does become sort of easy to navigate and use. Yeah. All right, I'm standing between lunch, so I just need to give you some housekeeping things. But I hope you'll all agree this morning has been so informative.
I think Jeff had a question.
Jeff, did you have?
I don't need a microphone. So in your own personal opinion, I know this is my second or third conference, but what's the biggest challenge you personally think with having the parents fill out the registration?
So I think that. Oh, he's wondering, like, what is hindering patients from not registering, and why we only have 126. What my personal opinion is, I think that the way Matrix is set up requires you to create a login and then wait for them to respond to you. So I have about 40 patients that I only have like an email address for, and they haven't actually gone back in. So we sort of have to chase those people. It isn't something that you can just, hey, open up and just fill it out and complete. You have to create an account, then they respond to you. Then you log back in, and then you do that health and development survey, and you think you're done. And then next time you log back in, you're like, oh, I've got 14 surveys to do. And the surveys take time, you know, and sometimes it's tough, you know, especially I have a 9-year-old. I don't remember exactly how old he was when he crawled or, you know. So I think once you do it and complete it, you realize that it's not that bad.
Apologies, I forgot questions. There are some more.
I'm one of the people that you only have an email for, because when I looked at the concept of like, oh my gosh, and I have 19 other things that the neurologist wants over here and 4 things that the behavior specialist wants in person that I got to take to the pediatric ophthalmologist in 3 weeks. And what was the purpose? My husband was like, why would you spend all that time doing that? Now I understand what it's for, but I had zero concept of why I would literally spend it. It's not a little thing. Like, we're like, oh, just fill it out. It would take hours of my time. She's 12.
Yeah.
Like, to fill it all out, to upload all the documents, to find all the documents, to scan all the documents.
By the way, you only need one document. It's a genetic report.
I know, but
and
it
if you
feels
don't,
like a lot of documents.
And if you can't do it, you can. If you're okay with it, you email it to me, and I'll put it in there for you.
But that, I mean, I didn't have a purpose for it. It was like just another place where I'm adding in data for her. So I think a purpose-driven explanation.
Yeah, and I think that's why it's important for me to kind of explain and give you like my perspective on why I think it's important and why it can make a difference for us all.
And like someone said earlier, we're in control. This is us.
Right. This is
really
right. It's us
participating in the research.
Yeah.
Are there other questions in the room? Were there questions online? Okay. All right. Oh.
I just want to add to double down on the genetic report ideas, that if you don't upload your genetic report confirming the diagnosis, all the information that you've bothered to put in, we can't use it, because researchers, doctors, they won't accept it without that confirmed genetic report. Not that people without this diagnosis would want to have the time, make the time to come in and fill out random surveys, but it is necessary. So that's like very key to upload that genetic report.
Katia's going to be chasing you in June, so watch out.
Yeah. And I did all that with all these new readers that I just got. I'm like, the mid-40s has hit us hard, huh?
Thank you so much, Katia.